Okay, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started. Hopefully some other folks will join us. My name is Leah Chandler. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Discover Puerto Rico, and I'm really thrilled you all are here to talk about this important topic with us today. We all know that sustainability is a topic that's growing in importance, and not just from a marketing and a communication standpoint, which is a big part of what we're going to discuss today. But more importantly, sustainability in practice is more critical than ever. When the DMO talks about sustainability, yes, we're talking about ecotourism and we're talking about environmental sustainability, but we're also talking about cultural sustainability. So some of you may have heard that term. Cultural sustainability is really about, consideration and understanding and respect for heritage, the identities and the values that really bind people to places. And for those of you who have seen Discover Puerto Rico's campaign that launched in 2022, Live Boricua, you understand that we take the protection and preservation of the heritage and the culture of Puerto Rico really, really seriously. So we're talking about sustainability sort of in two specific areas. It's important for us to really, we're thinking about tourism today and we're in the weeds day to day, making sure that we're hitting our numbers, but we also have to be thinking about what tourism means for Puerto Rico in the future, for our future of the island's tourism to be just as strong as it is today, or hopefully even stronger. Environmental sustainability and cultural sustainability have to be at the forefront of our minds, but it also, both of these areas have to also be at the forefront of our actions. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. The responsibility for sustainability, certifications and credentials and endorsements and sort of the monitoring and enforcement of areas around sustainability doesn't fall under the DMO's purview. As I'm sure many of you are aware, these initiatives lie with the Puerto Rico Tourism Company. However, the DMO has the responsibility to market and to message the island's sustainable efforts, and really lift up those businesses that prioritize initiatives in the sustainability area. So while today, and you'll see it in some of the numbers we talk about in some of our competitive set, our sustainable practice and product may not be pacing with some destinations who have been in this space for a really long time. And we use, Costa Rica as sort of the gold standard in the space. But we do have a lot of really special stories to tell, and you're going to hear about some of those today. Those narrative threads are starting to grow, and they're going to become an even bigger priority for the DMO's marketing efforts. So that's why we want to share this great information we have garnered through the sustainability audit that we're going to be talking about. So up next, you're going to hear from one of our awesome partners, Skift Advisory. Alesh Rodriguez Brunsums is the Director of Strategy for Skift Advisory, and he's really going to dive into the audit and the report. He's going to discuss some best practices in the space, particularly looking at competitive destinations, as I mentioned, what they're doing well and what we can learn from them. He's also going to share some recommendations stemming from the audit that's going to guide us in more prominently featuring our island sustainable product and really solidifying the DMO's position in this space. So if you have questions while you're listening to the presentation, please go ahead and drop those in the Q&A box on your screen. We're going to try to answer them throughout the presentation. We'll take as many as possible. And we're also, of course, always at your service to discuss any questions offline following the presentation. Also important to know, we're going to be recording the webinar, so we'll make that available to folks in the coming days as well. So I know a lot of you have been looking forward to this. There's been a lot of interest in this since our initial global summit a few weeks ago, which is why we wanted to do a follow-up for a deeper dive. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Alesh to jump into the presentation with us.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much, Leah. Can I confirm that you can properly see the presentation?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Bueno, hola, buenos días a todo el mundo. Es un placer estar aquí. Good morning, everyone. Really a pleasure being here today with all of you. As Leah mentioned, I'm Alej. I'm the Director of Strategy at Skift Advisory. Skift Advisory, we are a strategy and insights advisory arm of the leading media and events company Skift, which some of you might have heard about. And we typically work with destinations all over the world to uncover their unique competitive advantage, like the one that Puerto Rico holds. Here with me today is Emily. If you want to introduce yourself quickly, Em.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Ehrman, and I'm a senior associate on the strategy part of Skift Advisory as well. So I've worked with Alesh and Oliver together to put together this sustainable tourism audit.
Awesome. Thank you, Em. So, it's been a journey already since we started working with Discover Puerto Rico back in January to develop this first of its kind sustainability audit of Puerto Rico's tourism supply, meaning our products and experiences. And we had the pleasure to present our findings about a month ago at the Discover Puerto Rico Global Summit in San Juan in front of media and key stakeholders. And, like the aim of today is basically to uncover what some of these findings might mean to you as an industry. So, in other words, to all of you here today. So we at Skift run a lot of research. And we do that like constantly, like research of all kinds, but especially to sustainable tourism. What we've seen all over these last years is that the results of our primary research, but also from other main sources, show with strong evidence that sustainable tourism isn't a niche anymore, but a mainstream global traveler demand. And some of the results are pretty evident. So, from one hand, we see that around two-thirds of international leisure travelers today actively seek out tourism operators that adhere to social and environmental standards. The same number, actually, of travelers like to support local communities and operators while they're on their vacation. And this number, like, it's even growing more to three-quarters of these international leisure travelers that are saying that are willing to pay a premium for responsible tourism experiences. Now, there's a catch in this one. So, while travelers are willing to pay this premium, um, only a few of them are actually willing to pay a large sum. But the good news on that is actually the younger demographics of these travelers are the ones that are willing to pay a higher price for that. So there's some sort of hope in there. Just to provide a bit of context, so everyone can be a visitor. Few manage to be travelers, but not that many of us behave as socially responsible travelers. And this needs to change. According to the latest forecast of the World Travel and Tourism Council, tourism global economic contribution is expected to reach record levels this year. Unfortunately, this is still heavily linked to an increase of tourism arrivals, hence increasing even more the pressure on our host destinations and communities. One of our colleagues, Greg Klassen, Senior Director of Strategy, he was the former CEO at Destination Canada. And some years ago, he coined the concept of traveler social responsibility, which essentially is the commitment from visitors to treat lightly on their host culture and environment. So what this basically means is that each traveler need to be held accountable for responsible behavior when visiting a destination. And that's unfortunately not the case today, mostly, but we're going into that direction. So why are we here today? So around the end of last year, Leah and our friends at Discover Puerto Rico came to us with this idea, this aspiration to position Puerto Rico as a leading sustainable tourism destination globally. As Leah said, integrating your unique culture, heritage, and community in order to eventually compete head to head with these destinations that are perceived as leaders in the space, such as Costa Rica, Iceland, New Zealand, Bhutan, and others. So, as Leah mentioned, our goals were firstly, we wanted to identify sustainability best practices made in Puerto Rico by analyzing a large number of sustainable tourism initiatives taking place in our island. We then wanted to benchmark this against peer destinations similar to Puerto Rico. So we also analyzed some of these sustainable tourism destinations happening in some of these destinations to have like the holistic image. That allowed us to recommend a set of marketing and communications recommendations to Discover Puerto Rico in order to enhance the brand positioning and market differentiation of Puerto Rico relative to sustainable tourism. And now my colleague M is going to tell you exactly how we went on in this process.
Yeah, thanks for that, Alesh. So I'll be walking us through the evidence-based approach that our team took for this sustainable tourism audit. And our approach was divided into 3 phases. The first phase was where we developed a framework, and part of this development process involved defining the evaluation criteria we would use to determine which tourism initiatives within Puerto Rico and outside of Puerto Rico we would be looking at. And we divided this framework, or really created 2 separate frameworks for domestic and international initiatives. And they were very similar frameworks. However, the international framework had an additional component to it. So first, we identified destinations that we found similar to Puerto Rico in some way, and then put them through an additional framework to determine how similar and which were the most similar to Puerto Rico, and then put them through the grander framework that we used for all of the initiatives. So that turns us into phase 2, which is where we assessed the initiatives that we identified. And we had 40-some Puerto Rican initiatives. And then after we found the destinations that were similar to Puerto Rico, we also had an additional 40-some initiatives that were not based in Puerto Rico. So we put all 80-some of these initiatives through these frameworks and provided them with ratings. And this really leveled the playing field and brought all of the initiatives onto the same rating system. And that's what helped us determine which domestic and international sustainable tourism initiatives we would then deep dive into to turn into case studies. And that brings us into phase 3, which is where we analyze those initiatives. We looked and determined what the best practices were. We looked and determined the impacts that they had on Puerto Rico or on their own destinations. And then we created an insights report, which gathered and identified the trends that we saw amongst all of these initiatives, and also helped us provide recommendations to Discover Puerto Rico. Lesh, if you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So when we began this audit, we recognize, and we continue to recognize, the importance of profit in tourism and also within sustainable tourism. So without profit, a destination cannot be cared for properly, and without a properly cared for destination, you're not going to get profit from tourism. So we recognize that importance. However, we also recognize the importance of balancing people, place, and planet in any destination. And that was at the forefront of all of the decisions that we made and the guidance that we offered throughout this audit. And within the recent months, UN Tourism, or formerly UNWTO, released a set of global standards, which outlined the impact and performance indicators of destinations for tourism. And these specific performance indicators identified economic impact, social impact, and environmental impact within these standards, which was great to see because, Alesh, if you'll go to the next slide. This is our framework that we used for this audit, and we use those exact same standards. So I won't spend too much time on this, but I will walk us through the framework just a bit. If you'll first direct your eyes to the right side of the screen with the pink headliner, this is the mini framework that we put the similar destinations through. So we started with around, I believe, 20 destinations, and we put them through this framework where we looked to see how similar they were to Puerto Rico in terms of the products and experiences that they offered, in terms of their number of visitor arrivals, the pricing, so that includes products and experiences, but also accommodations and transportation, et cetera. And then also their geographic proximity to Puerto Rico. So after they went through that framework, we then looked at those. We came up with 6 different destinations and pulled initiatives from within those. And so now we'll go back to the left side of the screen. You'll see the 4 yellow lined headliners here. And this is the framework that we put all of our 80-some initiatives through. In the first box, we determined basic credibility, and that was really to see how good of a fit that particular initiative was for this sustainability audit. So we looked at whether or not they recognize their contribution to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Most of them didn't actively acknowledge their contribution, but every single initiative that we looked at impacted a minimum of 2 goals, some of them as many as 6 or 7, which was wonderful to see. We also looked at whether or not the initiative had any third-party sustainability certifications, and then also examined their public relations and communication potential, which was crucial for this particular project, as Discover Puerto Rico is really looking at how they can share the message of the sustainable tourism opportunities within Puerto Rico. In the next box to the right, we looked at the economic impact of the initiative, whether or not they supported decent and equal employment within Puerto Rico, whether they supported infrastructure development, so that includes roads or community centers, and then whether or not they supported innovation and entrepreneurship. And several of the initiatives that we ended up looking into were either co-ops or they were community-led initiatives, which offered a lot of support for local Puerto Ricans. And again, that was really great to see. Next, we looked at the social impact, the way that the initiative benefited the community, either through equal opportunities or education, the way that the initiative conserved culture and heritage. This was often through education again, and then the level of accessibility that the initiative offered. And that looked at who could partake in that initiative. Is it regularly abled people, or is it also differently abled people? Is it people within the community and outside of it, et cetera? And then finally, we looked at the environmental impact, which I think is probably what most people think of when they are thinking about sustainable tourism. But as you can see, our team really wanted to incorporate a holistic approach to the sustainability audit. And for that environmental impact, we looked at nature conservation, whether or not biodiversity and native and endemic species were being preserved. We looked at whether or not local purchasing and sourcing was prioritized. Oftentimes that was produce or linens or hygiene products. And then finally, we looked at the way that the initiatives were managing their water, energy, and waste. Alesh, you can go on to the next. Thank you. And I won't have time to dive into each of these, but these are the 9 initiatives within Puerto Rico that we looked at. If you have time or something catches your eye, I highly recommend you search some of these because they are really phenomenal initiatives. And our team also ensured that they were pretty equally spread across Puerto Rico. They're not all concentrated right in San Juan. And there's also a decent variety between accommodations, tour operators, and attractions. And also it's worth noting in the bottom right-hand corner, we actually retroactively added El Yunque National Forest upon recommendation of Discover Puerto Rico. It's a bit different from the other initiatives, but when we began investigating, it became very clear why this was recommended. There's some really impressive sustainable tourism initiatives within that forest happening. Next slide, Alesh. And then these are the 6 initiatives that we looked at outside of Puerto Rico. Again, I won't be able to go into these too deeply, but they're initiatives that are in Belize, Costa Rica, the US, Dominican Republic, and the US Virgin Islands. And these are examples, these are benchmarks, these are inspirations. They're all very unique and different from one another, but things that we can look forward to in the future for Puerto Rico. And then the next slide. So this is illustrative. This is an example of one of the case studies that we provided to Discover Puerto Rico. So our example here is El Yunque National Forest, and each case study looked pretty similar to this. So in the top left-hand corner, you can see we provided an overview of the initiative. and also highlighted some of the best sustainability practices that we were able to identify within the initiative. In the top right-hand corner and the bottom left-hand corner, the four, like, I guess, teal or green blocks that you see are the four qualities of that framework that I went over a couple slides ago. So that includes credibility, economic impact, social impact, and environmental impact. And we really did a deep dive to provide as much context and information for each initiative. And then also in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see a small yellow box. And that is where we provided the so what. What does this mean? What does this do for Discover Puerto Rico? So we maybe highlighted something that only this destination was doing, or a special combination of skills or efforts that this initiative was applying, and how that could be used and further applied by Discover Puerto Rico. And then lastly, in the bottom right-hand corner, we analyzed the public relations, marketing, and communications efforts of each initiative. And that was specifically communication to consumers, to the travel trade, to the media, and the community. And again, this was crucial for this particular sustainable tourism audit because one of Discover Puerto Rico's goals, as Alesh mentioned, was to determine how to best market Puerto Rico as the sustainable tourism destination that it is. So I'll hand it back to Alesh so he can talk about some of the recurring themes and qualities that we saw throughout all of our initiatives.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Em. So back to it, now we went over our objectives of the sustainability audit. Emily has covered the process and the framework that we follow, the case studies that we analyzed. So right now, I guess that all of you might be wondering, so what? What does this mean to us as businesses or key industry stakeholders in the island? So we identified 5 sustainable tourism best practice themes made in Puerto Rico that allow us to say without a doubt that Puerto Rico has a strong, unique competitive advantage in sustainable tourism. We at Skift Advisory, as mentioned before, we work with clients all over the world, and many of these destinations, especially those, for example, in the Middle East, would dream about having such an amazing tourism offering around sustainable tourism as the one that Puerto Rico has. So I'm going to quickly go over these 5 themes, which are locally led experiences, resilient rebuilding, heritage innovation fusion, engage, educate, and explore, and conscious comfort. And I'd like to spend a bit more time in each one of them to detail what's in it for you. So the first theme, local-led experiences. So community-based tourism acts as a cornerstone for sustainable tourism in Puerto Rico. By involving local communities into the development and management of tourism offerings, these economic benefits of tourism are more fairly distributed and the visitor experience becomes as authentic as it can be. So this is key. And you will see that for each of these best practice themes that we are detailing, you're going to see like some examples of these case studies that we analyzed. Resilient rebuilding, this is one of our favorites, to be honest. Particularly love this one because to me, it provides an element of tourism vision to Puerto Rico. Puerto Ricans have demonstrated that you can turn extreme challenges from natural disasters into opportunities for sustainable tourism. The reaction from the industry to events of devastating consequences, for example, like the Hurricane Maria, resulted into improving tourism infrastructure, restoration of natural barriers, and even new attractions have emerged, like, for example, Roca Norte that Emily was detailing before and that you have here in screen. So like really inspiring stories around resilient rebuilding. Heritage innovation fusion. So what does that mean? This means that sustainable tourism in Puerto Rico thrives when blending traditional practices with global standards of sustainability, like those of UN tourism that Emily was detailing before. So for example, it ensures the preservation of heritage assets, for example, in Old San Juan and so on, while adopting innovative technologies for energy, waste management, and so on. At the same time, by marketing through multiple digital channels, uh, these businesses that are located in lesser known destinations that preserve a traditional way of living and so on, exemplifies how modern communication can spur economic growth sustainably across geographies. Engage, educate, and explore. That one is about hands-on and learning tourism offerings and how these contribute to foster a deeper connection between visitors and the local communities and environment. By engaging visitors into authentic local experiences, from agricultural tours to wildlife conservation projects to reforestation projects, these play a critical role in educating these visitors into becoming destination stewards. And this in turn is key to attract these high-value travelers who seek to immerse themselves into the destination and have, and hence like staying longer, spending more, and increasing this visitor dispersion and off-season visitation. And last but not least, conscious comfort. Conscious comfort relates specifically to accommodations. And this is related to the fact that I'm sure that like some of you have also like the misconception that staying into sustainable accommodation means like sleeping at a wooden shack in the middle of the jungle, filled with bugs, no hot water, and so on. But actually, that's the complete opposite. Luxury in travel these days is defined by engaging in local, authentic, and exclusive experience. And we at Skift have plenty of research proving that point and supporting this. This may mean that staying at a high-end hotel in a rural area, you could encounter that guests are served with like several dining options that have been crafted with products that are growing out the backyard, served by a local chef who is super talented and in turn living in the community nearby. And Puerto Rico has plenty of these examples. So what does that mean? This means that we are in a privileged position to amplify the unique stories of our people as change makers for sustainable tourism. So, as part of our findings, we developed a set of immediate tactical next steps, as well as a set of marketing and recommendations for Discover Puerto Rico, in order to, as mentioned, elevating the island as a leading sustainable tourism destination at the global level. And these range from socializing the findings of the sustainability audit report, which we did at the Global Summit last month. We're doing here today with the industry. And this is just the first step on this journey. We're also going to look into develop a set of creative assets, infographics, and so on to share with the media and industry, highlighting the key insights drawn from this audit. At the same time, we're also planning and organizing a set of travel trade roundtables in order to showcase some of the sustainable tourism initiatives from local operators, accommodations, and attractions to be included in itineraries, packages, and so on. And lastly, we want to emphasize the development of content highlighting these unique, inspiring stories happening in Puerto Rico and that B2B and B2C audience deserve to know better. And this next slide is just to show you a little bit how we went about creating a set of marketing and communication recommendations specifically targeted for marketing, PR, and travel trade that Discover Puerto Rico has in its hands in order to look into specific objectives for each of them, the actions, as well as having the relevant KPIs assigned for the next 3 years. I'm not going to spend like more time going into this though. So, reaching to the end here, just to make it relevant for you as an audience, we wanted to leave you with a bit of a thinking in terms of what can you do as a business and industry stakeholder to enable a more sustainable tourism industry in Puerto Rico. So here we have 5 questions that you should probably be asking yourself right now. The first one would be, are you adhering to basic sustainability standards? Do you have any sustainability policies and or certifications in place? This is linked to this basic credibility criteria that my colleague M was mentioning before. Secondly, are you contributing to a positive tourism economic impact? So in other words, are you contributing to generating more decent employment, to supporting infrastructure development related to tourism? Are you fostering innovation and entrepreneurship in our industry? Number three would be, are you contributing to a positive tourism impact, positive social impact, sorry. And this is related to how are your interactions with the community? Are they benefiting them? Is your activity helping to preserve culture and heritage in the island? And are you considering as well accessibility as a key thing here? Number four would be if you are contributing to positive tourism environmental impact. So this is related to nature conservation, local purchasing and sourcing practices, and water, energy, and waste management. And lastly, and this is more like from a trends perspective, are you up to date with the current sustainable tourism trends happening both globally, regionally, and locally? And do you understand what type of products and experiences travelers are currently looking for around sustainable tourism? So those are all like key items that would probably help you position better your activities to enable and enhance sustainable tourism. So I know we've talked a lot. So just to wrap this up, we just wanted to mention that this sustainability audit is an example of how a DMO like Discover Puerto Rico can start the process of learning and educating themselves and stakeholders on what products and experiences currently exist in the destination suitable for sustainable tourism. Also, how these compare to the competition of similar destinations. And lastly, how these findings can pave a path forward to seamlessly integrate culture, heritage, and community into the destination promise. So hope you found this interesting. Thank you so much for your attention. And I'm going to pass it back to Discover Puerto Rico to start with our Q&A session.
Thanks, Alesh and Emily. Really, really great information. We've seen a few questions that have come into the Q&A box, which we've kind of been answering as we're going through them. One of our staff just asked a question about the implications for this audit for the MICE sector, for meetings and conventions. And again, I think a lot of the information that we've shared here is used sort of as a guiding light, if you will, into where destinations can really mine out sustainable tourism practices that are going to be relevant to the audience we're serving, whether that's leisure or meetings and conventions, so that an organization like ours, a destination marketing organization, can amplify that message to those audiences, right? So we're trying to take and gather and aggregate as much of these sustainable practices and programs as possible that are taking place today in Puerto Rico, whether that's on the meeting side or on the leisure side. And then we're determining how we create content around that, amplify that content, plug that into our earned media efforts when we get questions from journalists and things of that nature. So I hope that speaks to several of the questions that have come up in the chat box. But we will continue to monitor the chat box if you have other questions. And Alesh, turn it over to you to open up the panel. I think you're on mute there, Alesh.
And you're absolutely right.
There you go.
Thank you so much for that, Leah, for taking this up. So yeah, the next section here will be for us to discuss some of these findings of the sustainability audit with some of the business owners that have been featured in the report due to the uniqueness of their stories and how they are an example of contribution towards enhancing sustainable tourism in Puerto Rico. So here with us today, we have Manuel, who is the head of conservation and education at Finca Gaia. We have Eddie, who is the owner of Casa Sol B&B, and we have Marianela, who is the owner and founder of Roca Norte. I think before we start with our panel, it would be good if Manuel, Eddie, and Marianela, you want to quickly introduce yourselves to our audience to explain a little bit who you are and what your businesses are all about.
Hello, everyone. Should I start?
Sí, por favor.
Yeah, my name is Manuel Baez. I'm the head of the conservation and education program here at Finca Gaia. We're located in Dorado. We're a small family-owned farm, and we have a number of programs going on in the farm. We have our sustainable agriculture practices, and we receive people that are interested in learning about sustainable agriculture, and we teach them all about our practices. And we also have a conservation program where we have a small jungle or bosque here in at our farm, and we are preserving it. So we're doing forest trails, educational forest walks where we teach our visitors about all the local endemic and endangered flora and fauna that we have here in Puerto Rico, so that they can learn about what's from Puerto Rico and how we can preserve and protect it. So that's me.
Thank you, Manuel.
Awesome. So my name is Marianela, and as Alex said, I'm owner and founder, along with my husband Kenneth Irizarry, of Roca Norte Outdoor Climbing Gym. We're located in Vega Baja, also in the north, and we offer different services of rock climbing, but we also teach people in the areas of geology and archaeology as well, as the area we're located, it's very rich in heritage and its geology itself.
Thank you, Marianela.
Well, good morning. Eddie Ramirez here from Casa Sol Bed and Breakfast in Old San Juan, Puerto Rico. Along with my wife, Margarita Pastor, we restored this 250-year-old plus house in Old San Juan. And I've been working in the tourism and hospitality industry for many years. So we wanted to build a tourism facility for lodging that would focus 100% on sustainable tourism, and without limiting our guests with the amenities of a high-end luxury property. Implementing all these initiatives, we came up with Casa Sol Bed and Breakfast, which we restored, and all the amenities are concentrated in conservation and environmental issues, also community support.
Amazing. Thank you, Eddie. So let's get started then. In the sustainability audit that we just went over, we identified multiple success factors for sustainable tourism development. So in your opinion, what do you think is the most critical element for sustainable tourism? Community involvement, operators' commitment, or visitor behavior? And which do you perceive as the most critical and why? Who would you like to get us started?
Well, I can start. I would definitely have to say that the operator involvement is critical, because from there you can focus on the rest as far as the community and the visitors, because with the operators being aware of the sustainability, care, and the protection of our natural resources, they can communicate and transfer this to our visitors and eventually promote that to them and teach them how they can become responsible tourists, taking care of the different destinations that they visit throughout the world, because in general, the whole world is suffering from over-tourism. So we have to, in a certain way, protect that. So I guess the operators have a key role in, being certified under sustainable practices, and then teaching that to their clients and visitors, so that they can at the same time continue with those practices wherever they go.
Do you also think so, Marianela?
Here I am. So yeah, definitely I agree with Eddie. The operator's commitment, it's key. It's the most important. I don't picture myself being not that a high level of commitment in my business. We are the magnet of everything we're attracting, you know. So the more we are involved, the more we put from ourselves into what we're doing, the more we're going to attract into that direction. So I think, yeah, definitely the operators commitment, it's a very high top.
Are you also aligned, Manuel, with this? Are you gonna
Yes, I
surprise us?
I completely agree. I think as operators, we have the more of a chance to influence and be the glue to unite our community and then transfer this to our visitors. I think we have a big responsibility.
Awesome, awesome, perfect. So, in this sense, restoration and preservation are two concepts that are dominating our conversations on sustainability these days. Are you seeing visitors valuing the efforts of providing authentic, heritage preserving products and experiences in Puerto Rico? And that might be one for you, Eddie, as it relates a lot to what your business is doing at Casasol first.
Yes, well, like I mentioned earlier, we had this house restored, and definitely not only for the respect we have to our heritage and to Old San Juan, you know, being a 500-year plus city, I would say the oldest in the Americas and the Caribbean. So tourists, they actually, when they walk into the house, they go, wow, you know, because we restored the house to its original concept. Before 1960, there was no conservation law in place in Old San Juan. And after that, and before that, many interventions were done without any consideration. So when we took the house, we restored it back to its original footprint and look and feel without affecting these new amenities for guests, like, you know, having hot water, we use solar energy, having a water supply all the time. We restored the cistern, what is called an aljibe. We have 4,000 gallons of water. We stored solar panels, so we run almost 90% on solar energy. So we took care of all our initiatives to make sure our guests would be always comfortable. And definitely, we reused almost 80% of the original materials from the house. When you're restoring Old San Juan, it's kind of a Lego puzzle. You have to undo everything, bring all the materials down carefully, restore them, recondition them, and then put them back to its original place. So it took us 2 years to restore the house. It's all done manual labor. There's no equipment or machine that can do that, especially in Old San Juan with a limited space. So it was our pride and joy to be able to restore this house to its original look. Even today, we have tour guides that come in every week just to show the guests the patios and how the rooms look and the feel, the use of the original wood, Alsubo wood, the clay bricks, the restoration of our aljibe, our well, and how we can actually manage a business being sustainable. Because for us, our business, our main purpose is social. So for us, it's a business with social purpose.
Nice. Marianela, Manuel, do you also see visitors valuing these efforts from this end? And related to that, do you think that there's a willingness to pay a premium for this from what you have experienced so far in the last years? Whoever wants to go first,
Yeah.
Marianela.
Yeah, definitely. We receive many people from all over the world, not only US, Europe, South America, Central America, the Caribbean, many other places. And it is very important for them, or I think they connect more when they are learning about something that it's unique from our place. That's when they definitely feel actually I am traveling, I am learning something, I'm connecting with these people that are living this firsthand. And that's what makes the experience different. Yes, they are definitely they are very open to pay a premium. They say it all the time. This is even more valuable than I mean than just taking a tour. You're just speaking with a person. You're being part of the experience. It's more like a personal experience with the locals. So yeah, I've seen that a lot.
Awesome. What do you think, Manuel?
Yeah, I'm more or less on the same lines. My experience, especially with the green tourism or tourism in the forest trails, um, s- sometimes people are not as excited to pay a premium because they're not educated. But once they learn about our efforts, once they learn the amount of effort we put into restoring our natural resources or our natural spaces, once they are educated on the importance of it, on the amazing things that are in it, about all the species we are saving, conserving, once they see them and they learn about them, once the experience is done and they've been educated on it, they have no problem. I mean, sometimes we even receive tips because they are so grateful for what we're doing. But yes, at first it's always there. They don't understand why the price is higher than some other things. I think life is getting more expensive in Puerto Rico, so yes, some things are a bit expensive. But once they're educated on why, they have no problem doing it. Especially since we're doing such important work on restoring natural ecosystems, or as Eddie is doing, restoring our heritage and our historic places. Once there's education on the effort we're putting into these things and the importance of it, I don't think the price is a problem anymore.
Perfect. So in that sense, then, Manuel, hands-on learning and immersion into local communities is a driving trend currently in sustainable tourism across destinations worldwide. Travelers are looking to book community-led tours, cooking classes, nature-based experiences, and so on, that are basically fostering this interaction with Puerto Rican culture and get under the skin of the destination to the people that make it so special. So, from your perspective, and it's related to what Finca Gaia does, how does this benefit or differentiate your business and allow you to successfully operate that hands-on learning and immersion into the local traditions and culture and so on?
So, for on my experience on my side, um, this has been a real positive for our experiences, because there's a big trend now to reconnect with nature, especially as our societies are becoming more and more distant from natural spaces and natural areas. Yes, I have noticed a lot of increase into hands-on learning. People don't just want to come to the farm and walk a marked trail and then leave. They're they've shown a lot of excitement into getting their hands dirty. They want to know how we're doing things. They want to help. They want to plant a tree. They want to get more involved in something that they don't see every day. With our daily lives, these are things that we're born to do. No, we're part of nature, but we're so separated from it that if we offer hands-on experiences, if we offer them uh, like direct contact, they're very receptive to it. They are very grateful for the experiences.
Awesome. What do you think, Marinella? How does this affect in the context of Roca Norte and how this allows you to successfully operate? and differentiate yourself?
Well, Roca Norte itself is it's a very different concept in many ways. We offer rock climbing, but we offer workshops, or we offer also the experience of being connected with, you know, our Taino people and all the pre-colonial people. So yes, I mean, people connect. They wanted to be part of this. They definitely they get more involved. They would return. You know, we have clients here that they come every year, the same, and they are invited also by other people. So I think, yeah, there's a good connection with the place and what we're doing. If there's another place like this in the world, nobody has yet find it. I have to say that we receive people from all over the world, and they say, "What have you done here?" So we generally speaking, right? We put all the services that you can find in an indoor climbing setting, but in an outdoor setting. And that's what differentiates us a lot, because none of that is offered in the whole island. You have to be a rock climber itself to, you know, be and able to climb on your own. So we have here kids that climb since they're 3-year-old, and you see this peaceful around here, but there's a summer camp back there going on. There's lots of kids going up to the walls right now. So yeah, I mean, that's on my side.
Right. Have any last thoughts, Eddie?
Definitely, like Manuel said, you know, and Marianela, we do have a special responsibility to our visitors, and especially our businesses, that we are able to dedicate one-on-one. And we want to implement a tourism facility that goes back to the roots of lodging, you know, where travelers would stay in family homes and had the time to talk on one-on-one of, you know, of what their needs are and their interests. Especially today with the big evolution on tourism, where tourists have shifted from tourists to travelers. And now we're receiving these travelers with this thirst for knowledge on our history, our culture, our heritage, our music, our food. And we have that opportunity to give them everything that they actually want and need, by providing this one-on-one time to sit with them, talk with them, and answer all these questions and these interests that they have. So for us, it's very fulfilling that we can actually touch the heart of each visitor and change their future in a sense, because they go back home with having experienced a lifetime changing experience. You know, they fulfill their expectations. And for us, it's a big challenge, because we not only give them lodging, but we focus on our breakfast highly. You know, the main focus or the main attraction of a bed and breakfast is the breakfast. And we focus 100% on that, providing them local produce, local vegetables, being very creative on using everything that's local in the traditional breakfast, you know. So we provide them with this gastronomic experience along with their lodging experience, and the warm welcoming of Puerto Ricans that we love to give everything to our visitors, you know. We welcome them with a hug, and sometimes they go, wow. And at the end, they actually give us a kiss goodbye. You know, it's not in their culture, but they have changed their ways. We have contaminated their culture in a sense that they actually feel like, you know, they visited a family member. So we have a big responsibility, all three of us, because of our one-on-one contact with these visitors.
Amazing. So in this sense, let's talk a bit about the future then. So climate change is real and it's impacting our planet in unprecedented ways, unfortunately. On the flip side, this is resulting in consumers increasingly seeking tour operators, attractions, activities, adhering to the social and environmental standards, and wanting to support these local communities while traveling, as showcased previously on our research in the sustainability audit. So, looking forward, as the business leaders and change makers that the three of you are, what are your greatest hopes on the opportunities for Puerto Rico on its development into a more sustainable future?
I would have
Manuel,
to
would you like? Oh,
say,
already, yes. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Eddie.
Is that I'm passionate with what we're doing and how we can
100%.
contribute to the future, because like you said, climate warming, climate change is there. So the key is education and leading by example, because I guess for most of us to be sustainable, to implement these practices, at first it's hard. It was challenging because you have to change your culture. You have to change the way of doing things. So when you start implementing these things and they become part of your daily life, they become your lifestyle, they become automatic. So you no longer have to do things differently, to be conservation or to do recycling, because you do it automatically, and it's like, when you wake up or we want to throw something away, we look for a recycling bin, or we keep it with ourselves and then recycle it later or give it a repurpose. So our key for the future is to educate, and we try to educate our guests as much as we can, not only as by letting them know that we use renewable energy, that we collect rainwater, but we show them different initiatives. Like we have a sand clock in our showers, and we say, shower in 5 minutes. Learn to care for our natural resources. And by implementing these practices, you create some interest in their lives. We compost 90% of our organic waste, and we do it so they can see that we're actually, collecting this organic waste. We have recycling bins in all our guest rooms, and when they look at the art and most of the furniture, it's local, and they say, "Wow, you make this in Puerto Rico?" I say, "Yes, we have, nice furniture builders and artists." So I think the key is to educate, and eventually people will emulate what you do when they see you doing it yourself. So it's leading by example and educating. It's the only way we can change the future.
What are your hopes for the future for Puerto Rico in this sense, Manuel?
I completely agree with Eddie that the path to the future is in education. That's like our main mantra here in Fincagaya, is that through education we're going to accomplish everything. For me, I think we're blessed in Puerto Rico. I think Puerto Rico is blessed because we have all the ingredients to become an example, a leader worldwide on sustainable tourism. We have all the natural resources in the world. We are lacking none. We have the culture, we have the food, we have everything, but we're not there yet. Like known, I think when you think of sustainable tourism in the world, you think, like you guys have mentioned, Costa Rica. You think maybe Galapagos in terms of and endemic species and things that are strange and unique. And then you have Singapore. I kind of forgot why Singapore is there, but everybody thinks of Singapore. And I think here in Puerto Rico we have all the ingredients to be one of those names that pops up into people's brains when you think about something unique, and we can be that example. I think we need to start with education, and in terms of global climate and global change, we can lead the example.
Yeah.
Are you guys hearing me?
Yeah, perfectly. We see you.
I think I just got like an Amber Alert on the phone. Sorry. So yeah, I think we can be an example from like in all the areas. We have all the ingredients. We just need people like Eddie, like Roca Norte, like us here at Finca Gaia to start taking the first stance and the first steps. We can have the best roads, like full with trees and flowering trees, and we can be like the best urban green areas. Like these projects are starting in Colombia and elsewhere, where they're in Paris, where they're trying to go green on the cities and plant more trees and stuff like that. We can do all that because we have it. Everything grows here. We have everything. I'm actually really excited that these conversations are starting, but because that's one step too, no? We need to start these conversations, and yeah, I think we have all the ingredients to be an example on how to do sustainable tourism on all levels, and in that way also contribute to climate change. Yeah, for sure.
So before handing over to you, Marianela, I just wanted to add to that you know, when we were at the global summit in person like a month ago, I remember asking that question to all of you about you know, that the case of Costa Rica being usually portrayed as an example of sustainable tourism development, and how Costa Ricans' lifestyle was revolving around this concept of pura vida, no? That basically is engraved into the perspective that Costa Ricans cherish life's simple pleasures. It's associated with a sense of well-being, positivity, gratitude, etc., and that their huge success basically has been the ability to infuse this pura vida concept into how they've developed their tourism offerings. And I remember, Manuel, you gave quite a speech on that, similar to what you did now, that Puerto Rican pura vida version slogan. So Leah and team, you might want to leverage that. Not sure if it's a good idea. But yeah, and I remember the audience just applauding. So, you know, I think that there's a sense of things changing into that area and wanting to do something around it. So, Marianela, do you think that, as Manuel and Eddie mentioned, Puerto Rico also has this secret sauce, and what would that be, in your opinion?
There you go. Wow. So yeah, I mean, we have it all. It's being said. What we don't have, is I think the people making the decisions towards that. We have the education. We know about climate change. We have one of the best scientists groups in the island. We have good universities. I mean, as an environmental geologist, I have to say that sometimes it's frustrating, right? Because we know this has been going on, you know, for years, and we've seen our nature changing and all of that. But at what point is it going to change actually? When is where is the button that you press and now it's changing, you know? So yeah, that's my point of this.
Amazing.
Sorry.
Perfect. Cool. So, you know, as we're getting a bit towards the end, I'd like to ask you a real personal question to all of you, and that might be, you know, an inspiration to those that are in the audience today. Each one of you chose a hard path to do things differently, and you know, it takes a lot of courage and effort to lead the change in our industry. So, could you share with us today what was that primary reason, that exact moment that drove you to take a stand for sustainable tourism? How was it
See,
for you, Eddie?
well, definitely working in big hotel chains and many years back, just seeing how things were just wasted and just thrown away without any concern or worry. You know, it's like we had this surplus of everything, and it was half used. It can just go to waste. Our landfills, I guess, back then had lots of space. And then I would say having children eventually, and trying to educate them on how to be sustainable in our homes, it became a big concern. and that's why Casa Sol, was born because of that, because we're watching life go by at lightning speed, too fast, and at times without any concern for our actions. There was no way of seeing how this is what it was going to stop, and how are we going to control it, because it's going out of it actually grew out of our hands and out of our control. So the only way I said it, I can't change the world, but I can change my surroundings, my family, and starting little, eventually you grow big and you plant a seed here. So we're planting seeds in all our guests. So like in Finca Gaia and Marilena, we teach our guests, and I see that my education to our guests, I see it as planting a seed, because eventually they go back home and that seed grows and it expands within their families and their surroundings. So little by little, we are kind of reforesting the world with our practices, sharing them with our guests, and hopefully, it becomes more contagious and people become more concerned and more aware. So what changed my perspective in becoming, sustainable, it was very hard. I remember working in the hotel industry. It was super challenging, and back then we had hotels who competed with each other. I had a colleague from another hotel chain, Lisette Landestoy. Between her and I, she worked for Westin, I worked for Hilton. We would compete every year to be the Green Hotel of the Year. And we had the passion to make change. We actually involved all our employees. And in my hotel, we had almost 800 employees, and in hers too. But today, that has been lost, because we need leaders that are passionate in sustainability. And like one day my GM said, one person can actually make the change, but we need that one person to make the change. And today, many people, either by being frustrated or by deception, or just not seeing how we definitely need more government involvement. There has to be a commitment. I know we as citizens are making the change, and it's not because of any help or support. Examples like Marielena and Manuel, they're doing it on their own, and most of the things we do on our own. That's why I see many small businesses thriving today and growing, opposite to big, corporate businesses, because at the end it's all about bringing those roots to start new businesses and involving your families and your communities and everybody around you. So it's a way of life, and we have to make that change for our future.
100%, Hedy. What was that primary reason for you, Marianela? I mean, you had like quite a story of the start of Roca Norte.
Yes. So, there were many reasons on why we decided to do this, but I would say the primary reason, we needed to reinvent. We were deprived of our job that we had before, which was also rock climbing, right? But we were all across the island, guiding people in many places. We didn't have a spot like we have right now. And then Hurricane Maria came, and it just changed, forever what we were doing. We had to reinvent. We have to see what are we gonna do now. We don't have those places. We're not, these places cannot be accessible. We were lacking of the very basics. I'm talking about, like, we got stuck for 2 months in Barranquitas, which is the town that I grew up. And after we could get out of the town, we just had we went to our house, and it was just completely bare rock everywhere, and it's it's unique in its sense, and I can tell a lot of things here. But if you go to our website and you find that article that says how Roca Norte was formed, you can see pictures before and after, and you can tell there was no way for us to know that that was you know, a resource just sitting in our backyard. And how, you know, we have changed from a typical background to one of the best places to go in the island now. It's incredible. You know, we can look back and many times, and we haven't, you know, we still surprise ourselves that we could do that with, in the moment, you know, we were in a real need. We were lacking of the basics, but we were definitely full of commitment, full of you know, passion and a driving force that ultimately help us to get this done.
Amazing. Thanks, Marianela. How about for you, Manuel?
Hi, yes. So man, nice stories, and I agree a lot with both Eddie and Marianela. For us, this project, it was my mom that started it out of love, love for the earth and magic. My mom has always had this sort of magic surround her. And yes, so it's really hard. You know, I'm always super positive and stuff, and I can be very enamored about the projects and things. But yes, it's hard to do things differently. Had we started, with the idea of it being like a business first and money first thing, I think Agaya would be a completely different project. But I think because we started it out of passion and love, when you're passionate about something and you really care and love what you're doing, you want it to last forever. No, you wanna leave it for the next generations. So for us, it has been easy to make the choices towards doing something sustainable that's gonna last, because it's something I want to leave my kids. There's this saying about when is it the right time to plant a tree, and the right time to plant a tree is yesterday. You know, so here with our project here at Finca Gaia, I can't help but wonder every now and then, had my grandfather started this project, what would Finca Gaia look now today? And I can imagine just like something crazy beautiful. And so that's what I'm doing now. That's what my mom started. That's what I'm doing now. And sometimes I kind of wish I were my grandkids so I can see it be what it can be at some point in 100 years. But that's us. That's our vision. We want to do something that transcends us, that we can live for the next generations. Because I think sometimes we're stuck in this society that is very short-sighted. We're not used to thinking in terms of 100 years, 200 years, 300 years from now. And that's why we've gotten into the dilemma we are now today with climate change and all the crises we are experiencing right now is because of the short-sightedness of things. So here in Finca Gaia, yes, it's been extremely hard. It's a lot of work, but that hard work and all that effort, it's not a burden when you're doing it with passion, and when we are convinced that what you're doing it's good and it's gonna help a lot of people, and it's gonna be the right thing for your kids and you and whoever comes next, right? So yeah, I think my grain of sand would be, if you're starting something that you love, it's gonna be easy to make the right decisions and do the hard things because they're the right things to do. And in the end, it's going to be totally worth it. It's going to be more resilient. It's going to be better. It's going to last longer. It's going to outdo all the competition, because you cannot compete with stuff that's done well and with love. You can't compete with that. So you become your own thing, and that's how you stand out. That's my grain of sand.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marianela, Eddie, Manuel, for your time today. I truly enjoyed from my side talking to the three of you again. And I'm sure our audience have now quite a lot of key takeaways, insights, and messages that you conveyed in this session to let us all think about how to contribute to the sustainable tourism development of Puerto Rico. So just to wrap this up, I just want to leave us with a message. In Puerto Rico, we got the right ingredients to excel in sustainable tourism. So now it's a matter of belief that we can become a success story, focus our efforts on the right impactful initiatives, communicate this to the world, and take the Live Boricua to the next level. So thank you very much, all of you, and pass it over to Leah and the Discover Puerto Rico team.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alesh, and thank you so much to our panel participants. I don't know about you, but I could hear them speak for another hour. I just love some of the sentiments you all have shared. And we knew after the panel at the Global Summit, it just wasn't enough. And we had so many inquiries and so much interest in just hearing you all speak from your heart and really from the ground up in how you built these initiatives with your hands and with your heart. And I think, seeing how far you've been able to take it and how we're going to be able to help you take it even further from a marketing and messaging standpoint gives me a lot of hope. And I hope it did for other panel or other participants who came to the webinar today. Alesh, of course, we said thank you many, many times to Skift Advisory for this. You all have done an incredible job to help us uncover the things that we're doing really well right now. In Puerto Rico in this space. We know there's a lot more work to be done, and some of the questions and comments that have been shared here today speak to that, that it can't be private businesses alone working with the DMO. And, promotion is just one small part of this, and it really comes at the end. We know it has to be a partnership with government. It has to be public and the private sector really coming together with a long-term vision for Puerto Rico in this space, because it's not something we do today because we're getting questions from journalists or we're getting inquiries from tourists who want to take trips that are leaving a lighter environmental footprint. This is really about the long game for the protection of the environment and cultural sustainability in Puerto Rico. So it's a really, really important conversation. Skift Advisory has helped us bring that to light, and all these incredible panelists have really added so much heart to it. So can't say thank you enough. Appreciate the participation from everyone who's joined us today. A lot of great questions and so much engagement coming from what you're hearing, which says to us, this topic is just going to continue to resonate and become more and more important to us. So again, we recorded this webinar. We're happy to share that out in the next day or two with those who attended. We'll probably also be sharing it in our industry email blast this week. So continue to look for more information from us on this topic, and we hope to see you all soon.